What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I hope you're having an awesome day. Welcome back to another powerful episode of Marketing by Design. I am your host, Andy Milligan of MMG Design here in Columbus, Ohio, and today we have a super special, exciting, and a little bit strange episode for you today. Today on the show, I'm going to be uploading the audio version of my panel given at the Columbus State Community College, talking to an audience of 60 plus collegiate and beginner level marketers about career, how we got started on LinkedIn, my story in building the business so far, and how they can navigate career insecurity in their own endeavors. And we also peel back the curtain a little bit and we get super real and transparent, talking about a little bit my hearing loss, childhood, imposter syndrome, all the deep, dark, scary insecurities. And it's just a good episode if you're interested in any of that stuff. Being just 2 to 3 steps ahead of these kids for myself, it was a really awesome chance to just kind of reflect on not just how far I've come with MMG and building the company, but also being able to give back to these kids as well. Because so many of those emotions that you feel when you feel like you have to know what your next step is, knowing what you have to tell people, like what are you going to do after graduation, especially when it comes to marketing and building a career that you just don't know the next step a lot of times. And this is a really good listen for you if you're in that chapter as well. Huge, massive thanks to our friends over at the American Marketing Association Columbus chapter for being our presenting sponsors for the show. You are our great friends. And I was just talking to some of our leaders, Jessica and Paula and Mike, at our last event over at Portfolio Creative. An awesome panel between a couple C-suite marketers. And we were talking a little inside baseball in terms of how we deal with our own clients in terms of pricing, managing relationships. And they've been huge mentors to me as I've started my agency, and it's allowed me to not just charge more to my clients, but also have more confidence when I come into these meetings and navigate my own marketing career. So if you're looking to feel cared for and looked after, and honestly to network with a group of high-performing marketers here in Columbus, Ohio, AMA is where you need to be. Be sure to check out the links below to get involved right away and skyrocket your career with the best of them. So without further ado, let's dive on in to this Columbus State Community College. Again, special thanks to Dwayne Donaldson and all the hosts over at Columbus State for the opportunity to do this, and I hope you guys enjoy. Welcome to entry number 94 of the podcast. Here we go. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andy Milligan. I'm the founder of MMG Design. We have an office based in Worthington, Ohio. But yeah, they say it's best to, I've spoken a couple times at the University of Franklin, or Franklin University, and once at the Columbus Chamber, but they say it's best to work with people that are 2 to 3 steps ahead of you guys. I just graduated in the spring of 23 from the University of Findlay. And I started a business almost right after school. So I worked in an agency for 6 months after graduation. And I'd always kind of been freelancing. We do web design and marketing for small and medium enterprises in the Columbus region, mostly in B2B tech. I lasted about 6 months at a full-time job after I graduated from Findlay. And then went full-time and had enough runway to make the business full-time. That's what we've been doing for the past almost 2 years now. We work with a lot of local organizations. Columbus Chamber is a big client of ours. Work with Union County Economic Development, Plain City Economic Development for ongoing initiatives to help them with their marketing and website design services and stuff. But yeah, I'm very grateful to be here. If you guys have any questions about maybe wanting to start here, what's up, man?
Is that Hollyland?
Yeah.
Are you recording or something?
No, my dad has a camera out there. He's supposed to come in, but there's not a lot of room in here. But yeah, it is.
I just recognized and saw that. So.
Yeah, you do camera front.
I was pretty involved in our church. I do a lot of camera stuff. We use Hollyland receivers, and we've been getting some Cali lights for our tripods.
Yeah, this is awesome. So I post a lot of vlog content. That's how I get a lot of leads for my business.
Yeah.
Also on LinkedIn.
Oh, it's on your shirt.
Yeah. But we also do a lot of content creation for in conjunction with some of our marketing packages too. But we manage 2 podcasts as well, so we manage the production and fulfillment of those. And a lot of those are kind of just all in one packaged marketing services. But we use these a lot for like virtual recordings when people are traveling. Some of our guests, super seamless to just plug it into their Mac and record. But a fun fact about me is I played golf in college. Wasted a lot of time on golf courses growing up as a kid. And I played collegiately at the Methodist University in North Carolina on a scholarship before I transferred and played at University of Italy. And I have not played in a long time, but I used to be a scratch golfer. So don't test me on that now. The skills have definitely gone downhill. But I could still probably take most of you guys. And one funny thing about me is that my parents call me a baby giraffe. This is the way I run, but I do run 30 miles a week still, regardless of that moniker. But yeah, I'm excited to be here with you guys today.
We wanted to start off with kind of a basic question, and I know this might be the hardest question, is we'd like each of you just to spend a couple of minutes or so describing a typical day, and if they're all atypical, that's fine too. But just describe, what is your role? What are your roles?
I love this question. So have any of you guys heard of Ali Abdaal? Somebody in here. You guys don't watch YouTube? You guys have never heard of it? Okay. So he's a YouTuber, one of the biggest ones. I think he's top 20 in the world on YouTube. I promise I'm not crazy. You can look him up after this. But he talks about lifestyle design and productivity. And I love this question because your life and amalgamation, like your entire life, is made up of what your days look like. And I think this is like the biggest question to me when I was in college trying to navigate a career is like, how do you build a life that you are excited about, that you want to dive into? And it really looks like he has this exercise of setting up like your ideal week. So money was no object. You could be doing whatever you want to do. Obviously, you'd still make money. But if you could, by choice, be the happiest, like what does a typical week in your life look like? And you break those down, those are into days. So a typical day for me, at least right now, is a lot of my time is spent on business development. So how many of you guys are on LinkedIn? All of you? Good. Well, by the end of today, all of you should be. So go set up a profile, regardless of what you guys want to do. It's one of the biggest things I want to leave you guys with. But I've been able to build, what I'm doing pretty much primarily through posting and networking on LinkedIn. That can be one of the avenues that you guys can use to, create a career, doing whatever you want as well. But to the actual question, a day in my life is usually the first 90 minutes to 2 hours start on LinkedIn. So I'll wake up, work out, and then that's what that is. They usually post a piece of content, whether it's a project or it's a podcast or it's just anything, a day in the life of the business owner, anything like that. Showing what you do, reaching out to people that could be possible connections that you could work with. For me, those tend to be people that are in marketing, other founders and business owners. And then the rest of the morning is usually client work. So we manage a lot of different websites and campaigns for marketing strategy. So it's either getting on calls for that. Tuesdays and Thursdays are my travel days. So I'm in 3 to 4 chambers of commerces, kind of in the Columbus region, Columbus, Plain City County, and Dublin. So going to some of those events as well in the evenings. We try to block those on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then afternoons I try to do 2 deep work sessions during the day. If I can get more than 4 hours in front of the laptop time a day, whether it's in development, talking to designers that I contract work to sometimes, just project managing. A lot of it is less in the creative work. And I think if any of you guys go the business owner route or the freelancer route, a lot of it is, where are you going to get your next projects? Where are you going to have your next meetings or relationships? And kind of always having some kind of ongoing marketing for yourself. But that's what a lot of my day looks like now.
Well, great. Well, it gives everybody a little bit of perspective about what you might do, because I think they all have different days too. Definitely during the week, we have different schedules here. One thing that we wanted to touch on was a couple of you have mentioned your career journey. Without going back through your whole career journey, what decisions did you make early on that led you to where you are today? Sometimes there's crossroads or things you have to decide. Is there something that sticks out with any of you that says, yeah, there were a couple of points where I've had to make decisions this is what it was, and this is how it directed me.
So I graduated 2 years ago. And I would just say you learn by doing. My first major was PGM, Professional Golf Management. It's a specialist major at Methodist University because I spent my entire childhood playing golf. I was like, I don't know what the hell I want to do. I just know that I like being on the golf course. Thought I wanted to be pardon my language, sorry. That I wanted to be on the golf course. I wanted to be a golf pro. But then that leads into internships. I had a marketing internship at a golf agency where, I wanted to do all these things. God, this was in 2021, I made $10 an hour at that internship, but I learned like everything, and I didn't care how much I was making. We live in an age where you can really make it like a career. Like, it's just, I've learned this. You can make a career by doing pretty much anything. And if you dive in, you just get really good at what you do and you add value to a lot of people. Like, it doesn't have to look like I went and I finished my degree and I did all these things and I was always freelancing on the side, but it doesn't have to look like the traditional path. I know how it feels, especially being like at the high school graduation or at the end of, a year of college, and everyone's kind of asking you, like, what are you doing next? Answer for that. And that's seriously okay. You can make, there comes a time, and everyone's story is different, so I can only speak to my experience. But if you focus on really just getting enamored and fascinated with what you guys like to do, there's a way you can make a career out of it, and use platforms like, LinkedIn or just networking or getting out there and doing like at these internships and stuff to share your story, talk about yourself, and it's going to attract the right people, and focus on getting really good at what you do too, because that's going to, whatever it is, it's going to make you a lot more future proof, and it always helps to know what you're talking about. So I would encourage you to just really dive in really deep, get self-aware on knowing what that thing is for you.
That's great. From what I'm hearing from all of you is that there's something or someone out there that's made you pivot, made you think, make you hesitate, make you look at things differently at some point. And I think that's one commonality that everybody can take from that. But I think we have someone.
I'm hearing about your first love is good and have passion about, but your first love isn't necessarily what can make any money. So other than being on the tour, he didn't want to be a golfer and make the big bucks. So you found something on your path and you still found passion about it. I think that's really a good point. I think high school counselors always tell you, find your passion. Well, my passion is, I don't know, wearing socks. I can't make a living wearing socks, right? So you gotta balance it out. The question here is from the chat. How do you balance an open calendar day where you can focus creative work and move the business forward versus days that contain meetings that require interacting with coworkers and making business decisions?
It's better to be consistently good over occasionally great. And I think a lot of my days, a lot of my weeks, they all look very similar. You need to kind of know what moves you forward, what fulfills you. You have to be consistent with putting in the inputs, no matter what you're building. So I would say that's probably the one thing I would describe. So it's tough to be self-aware on that front and distill it down to one word, but I would say I'm very consistent on putting in the things I need to get at the next step. It's been everything for me. I can tell you guys, especially being young, like the earlier you can start to build a network and just I know like how it sounds, like the word networking, just being in college. It's really just a term for talking, communicating, getting to know more people, getting perspectives, feedback. Like it's just, and I know like it's hard to get out of your shell if you feel like you were the only one maybe that thinks the way you do or has just like the inclinations that you do. And I promise you, like I grew up with like pretty severe hearing loss, and I'll probably be fully deaf by the time I'm like 35, 36. And I grew up like very kind of socially awkward, very quiet, isolated, had a speech impediment. And I didn't have like a huge sort of like child network growing up. I didn't have a lot of friends. And when like the transition from that out of that, like really getting out of your shell, it's really hard at first. And my mechanism to do that was like, hey, I'm going to start a podcast. And that's basically just a inbred excuse to talk to people and have an excuse like, hey, you want to come on the podcast? And it started at like super low production volume, and over 100 episodes, just like interviewing, talking to people, going to networking events, going with other people. So if you can have one person that you know, like, hey, go to this Chamber of Commerce event or this local chapter or this, even just like an event at school. There's a ton of opportunities here too. And just going and forcing yourself to talk to people. And I will say too, like when you have a business and you start to pay for these things, like Chambers of Commerce ain't cheap. You have sort of that sunk cost fallacy, like, okay, if you pay for this, you're invested, and that helps a little bit too. But I will always say that getting out of there and saying yes to a coffee, an opportunity, something like that, especially if people are older than you and you have an inclination that they've done something that you think is cool, or maybe they're pursuing a career path that you think is cool, or they made something, or they're doing a job, or they had a project, or there's some intersection there that kind of piques your interest. It's always worth saying yes to coffee, and you'll learn too that there will be times where they are energy drainers. You feel like sometimes it might have been a waste of time, but the downside of that compared to the potential upsides of like what one good relationship can do, just like for years compounding. And I'm just in the beginning of this too. It's always worth it to say yes to a meeting, and even if that means driving or going out of your way sometimes. Obviously, use your best judgment, but always default towards sharing, to getting yourself out there and meeting people. It's going to pay off in the long term.
Want to ask one more question, then I'd like to go to student questions. So if you have those ready, kind of get them ready for us. How many students here think that maybe you want to know something that maybe they know that you don't know right now? Anybody? All right. So we want to ask the panel just a simple question. What is one thing that you wish you would have known when you were, let's say, 20-ish, or a very young adult? And Andy, you're still there, but you're at least one step away, right? So what's one thing that you wish you would have known when you were going through what our students are going through?
It's really good. And this is going to sound like a different stance on like give yourself grace, imposter syndrome, but it feeds right into it. I'll explain. But I would say like work really hard, especially when you're young. And I try to be like, this is gonna sound bad that I say like I'm grateful for this, but I don't have kids. I don't have a wife, and like I can be very passionate about working very hard to try and build something to where when I have more responsibilities, when we do have these things that are going to take more of my time, then you build something for yourself that you can sort of take the compounding benefits of. So don't feel bad about working hard when you're this age, my age. Just really dive in, and I'd say just don't have any regrets, because the time that you put in now, networking, getting better at what you do, learning, failing, working through the imposter syndrome, it's going to pay off a lot. And I feel it every day. So.
Awesome. What questions do we have from our students? Abby, you have a question?
I have one. Excuse me. How do you guys stay creative and innovative while you're in the marketing process? How do you come up with new ideas and don't recycle the same things? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say, like passion is one thing. And I know like when I went through that kind of identity crisis when I was majoring in PGM, 3 years ago. And like I said, very, very closely removed. But I reached a point where I felt like I didn't have anything I was, passionate about. And I read this book by Cal Newport. It's called So Good They Can't Ignore You. Cal Newport's a very professional author, professor at Stanford. He wrote Deep Work, World Without Email, like all these very professional literature pieces. But he wrote this book when he was, in college, just getting ready to graduate our age, looking for a publisher to write his first book. I mean, that book would be a perfect time, but he kind of makes the point, and this resonated so strongly with me, where if you feel like you're kind of in that position where it's like I don't know what that passion feels like. Like there's nothing that I just dive in and go super deep rabbit hole in. Maybe it feels a little bit directionless. I mean, I know how that feels, and you can focus your mindset on, and I've said it a couple times, but like getting really good at what you do. Focus on getting better, more valuable in what you do. That pursuit kind of eliminates the feeling of like wondering if you're doing the right thing. You waste a lot of mental calories like wondering if I'm doing the right thing sometimes and questioning like, oh, is this the exact right avenue? Where if you focus really hard on getting better and just improving, then you naturally just create a path for yourself. Especially for people who don't really know what that thing is. I think you and I probably not qualified to answer this question. Like I've felt that way about every question. That's the imposter that we're talking about. But there's a lot of internal self-talk that goes around like finding your meaning. And I mean that may even be outside the scope of career. I will say a lot of people don't get their purpose, their meaning from what their job is. Sometimes you fill your life bucket and you fill your career bucket in two different ways. So there's definitely a deeper question there, but you can. It doesn't have. I wouldn't put a ton of pressure on making the thing that you do throughout the day especially for work, for money, having to fulfill that purpose. I think there's a lot of meaning in that, and there's a lot of, like I said, purpose in that. But don't put a ton of pressure that you have to find it right away. I mean, and I'll probably look back at this, and we all do. We look back at the past version of ourselves and like, man, what was that person thinking? But I just don't. When you think like you have to find this thing right away, you have to find purpose right away. It makes it a lot more difficult too. So I would say just enjoy what you're doing, focus on getting better in the meantime, and don't feel like you have to find what that thing.
So I wanted you to expand on something you said at the beginning about like looking at people that are 2 or 3 steps ahead of you. So like I know you mentioned like a mentor, and then like for me like that's like relatable because like in sports like you always want to like like learn from people that are better than you. And I'm guessing that probably applies to business as well. So like who did you guys like look to, or if you looked at anyone like ahead of you that helped you like kind of build those steps?
You can find someone locally doing something cool and request to interview them. I've done that 80 times now, and there's this thing. It's called down paying ignorance debt. So like, if someone knows how to get where you want to go, they can help you. And if you talk to someone, have genuine interest, and you don't take during a conversation, there's always perspectives you can add to. But people always want to hear. I mean, it sounds weird, but people always want to hear how awesome they are, and just don't have. I mean, there's a line between that and like being an abrasive fanboy and just like a creep. But just don't do that. But I'm telling you, like I've done it so many times. You talk to someone who's doing something that you like, that fires you up. They are genuinely, usually, not always, usually willing to reciprocate and help you out along the way. Like I can't say enough about what that's done for like my self-confidence and building a network, and just like also like reinforcing like the passion for what you do, because there's people out there that have validated it, and it makes it a lot more tangible. Once you talk to them, you hear things that they've gone through, what they've done, and you gotta get over that discomfort about content about what you do. Post your process. I mean, if it's on LinkedIn, so I posted every day on LinkedIn February 1st of 2024, so over a year, and that was the day that I got laid off from the agency. So every day I posted content, networking events, just things about my life, my process, my thoughts, what I was doing for clients, anything. And obviously there's the nuances of you learn how to use the platform, you tailor it towards your job, your profile history, you learn how to navigate and make connections, relevant connections, second, third degree, stuff like that. But to me, like, I've hired contractors from LinkedIn to do projects with, whether it's design or development or anything like that. And to me, if they can post about like their process and how it's differentiated, talk through it, like elaborate their thoughts on why they're making decisions, it's different across industries. But showing that you have like a pulse and that you have like a kind of a personal brand, you have thoughts on your job, your industry, man, people respect the hell out of that. And like, I would really lean into just putting yourself out there and posting some content. Also just doing like basic profile optimization. So good headshot,
Yep.
good bio, tagline that talks about what you do and the value of that. Those are kind of the check boxes.